Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. My name is Ash, and I am here with a review of Effie on Xbox. Now, this was released back in 2021, and I recently picked it up on sale and absolutely fell in love with it. Literally completed it in a day, and I don't tend to sit and just play a game from start to finish. I tend to flit around, but this one held my attention all day. Played it from start to finish, and absolutely loved it. Now, it was developed by Inverge Studios, published by Klabater, and basically it's a 3D action adventure game that's based on, inspired by quite a lot of sort of classics such as like Ratchet and Clank, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, A Hat in Time, and old school sort of Legends of Zelda. Now, in this game, you play as a adventurer called Galand, and he's basically on a quest to recover his youth after a witch has cursed him with old age. Basically, she's making him really old, and he's retelling the story to, I assume it's his daughter, and you just sort of play it out, and it sort of narrates over it as you're playing. Now, this game is obviously from a third-person 3D perspective, so there's a whole host of combat, there's platforming, there's puzzles, and there's exploration in a sort of semi-open world, which I thought was pretty nice too. Now, the story is very much a very sort of old school, simplistic sort of fantasy fare, but the gameplay really sort of pulled me back to sort of classic times playing games on like the PS2 and stuff like that. Now, all of the story is narrated, fully voiced, and I did enjoy the voice acting. It does get a little repetitive at some points where it's like, you can't do this right now, and if you press the same button over and over, it will repeat it quite a lot, which is the only thing I've really disliked about the game. But gameplay itself, like I say, it features a lot of platforming sections, moving platforms, traps, stuff like that. Combat where you're fighting enemies, multiple enemies at once. You have like a light and a heavy attack. And you basically, once you've completed the sort of intro, you end up in this sort of like open, semi-open world area, and there's a variety of different towns you basically have to free from evil forces. So you'll jet around on your like magical shield. You use it as sort of like a surfboard, and you'll dart around, go to your town, and you'll have to sort of complete a mini story in each of the towns. Now, each of these towns are themed differently. The first one's like a windmill city. There's one that's like a beer brewing factory where it's got bottles and stuff floating. There's like a horror-y themed town, and yeah, I thought the variety on offer was really cool. Now, there's a lot of collectibles to find as well, so you basically get like XP from defeating enemies and breaking items around the maps and stuff like that, and these level up your character. When you hit like you fill your meter full, you will end up getting more health and more sort of mana to be used for your abilities. Now, there's also things to do outside of these levels as well. So in this sort of semi-open world, there's also like ruins to find. There's like a race to do, like a checkpoint race. There's an arena to find, and a few little sort of mini side quests, as well as a variety of different sort of relic collectibles to find. Now, there are ones to find in the main story missions, as well as around on the sort of main city missions, and these are give you a bit of like lore that you can read, but mainly they're just used for the achievements. However, some of them are missable on the story driven section, so you must pay attention and sort of look around and go off the beaten track, otherwise you'd have to replay the game to get those achievements. Now, platforming wise and getting around, really fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed like the moving platforms and stuff, and it giving you different sort of ways to sort of work things out. Now, once you get to certain points in the levels, things sort of unlocks to save you having to sort of repeat everything and go back to the beginning, whether that be a lift opening up or like a door opening, so you can sort of retread your steps without being sort of having to go through all the traps you may have just got through and stuff like that. But I really like this game. As you can tell, like I say, the game itself isn't stupidly long. You're looking at possibly 5.5, 6 hours, depending on like how quick you find all of the sort of things on the side map and stuff like that, and you do the missions. The story missions themselves aren't too difficult to get through. There are some sort of light puzzle sections where you may have to pull levers or press things in a certain order. But other than that, like I say, it's not too overly complicated. Now, graphically, the game is pretty decent as well. It has a very sort of cartoony, sort of chunky art style to it that really gives me a nostalgic feeling. The way the game is set up means you can attempt each of the sort of cities in any order you want as well, before obviously moving on to the final boss. The bosses as well, there's a boss at the end of each area, which is basically a different variation of the witch, and you will take her on and obviously have to beat her and her minions to finish each zone, culminating in like a final boss fight, which basically makes you use all of the skills and sort of platforming and abilities you've gotten used to through the entire game that will be needed to basically beat her by sort of jumping around things and avoiding like lava and stuff like that. All the basics. It basically runs you through the best of hits in one sort of multi-layered boss fight. But I've really enjoyed this game, and if you're looking for a sort of Jack and Daxter-esque sort of fantasy-based game at a decent price, you can't go wrong with this. I picked this up on sale, and for what I paid, I had an absolute blast at it. Is it perfect? No, it's not. Like I say, there's some ropey platforming sections at time where you think you're going to do something and you don't. Like I say, there's a bit of repetition in some of the voice lines, but other than that, I've really enjoyed it. I wish it was longer, but I also love the fact that it wasn't that long. It's a bite-sized game. That means I didn't have to forget about it or come back to it or get bored of it. Like, it's not like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm not 150 hours in. It's a bite-sized chunk you can finish in a day or two, depending on how much time you get to play. It's not going to be super memorable. Like I say, it's a fun game, but it doesn't really bring anything new to the table. It just sort of combines a selection of genres to make a fun little sub 6 hour campaign. But the game is available right now. It's also available on other platforms, including PC. It's priced at $19.99 on Xbox, but it is on sale quite a lot, and I recommend picking this up on sale if you can, because maybe at $20 you may not want to pick it up, but if you can pick it up for sort of $10 or less, you're going to have a good time with it. And like I say, if you like sort of old school PS2 style games, like the old Crash games and the Spyro games, you're probably going to really, really enjoy this. And I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I had. I took a sort of gamble on it on a sale, and honestly, it was a really fun experience. Playable on Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S consoles. No sort of upgrades or anything for next-gen systems. Like I say, but this did come out a couple of years ago, so they've probably moved on to new things by now. But that's it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and we'll see you soon for more content. Bye for now.